There are things about you that you've never understood, patterns you keep repeating, places that pull you, people who feel strangely familiar. And yet, no one ever told you this might be connected to the moment your soul arrived here. The month you were born is not random. In the ancient language of symbols, time is not measured just by clocks or calendars, but by essence. Each cycle of the year carries a frequency, a psychological atmosphere, a spiritual signature. And when your soul chose to incarnate, it aligned with a specific archetype, not because of superstition, but because of preparation. Carl Jung knew this. To him, the self was not something built, it was something remembered. A structure silently forming beneath our persona, guiding our wounds, our attractions, our crises, all whispering the same secret. You came with a map. But most of us forget. We are born into noise, expectations and systems that train us to ignore the most intimate truth of our being. We carry a divine blueprint, and it's older than our name. Have you ever felt that certain seasons awaken something in you? That a certain time of year feels like home, even if nothing logical connects you to it? That's not random. It's resonance. Your soul remembers the atmosphere of its descent. It remembers the sky, the vibration of that threshold between the invisible and the visible. And in silence, it still responds to that call, even if you've forgotten where it comes from. If you've ever wondered why you are the way you are, why certain patterns cling to you, why your deepest pain feels strangely familiar, this isn't about astrology as entertainment. It's about symbols as language. It's about time as memory. And it's about your birth as a message. Not just to the world, but to yourself. Carl Jung was deeply fascinated by what he called the archetypes of the collective unconscious. But what most people forget is that Jung didn't limit these archetypes to abstract symbols. He saw them embedded in our lives, our myths, our dreams, and in our timing. Jung once said that whatever is not brought to consciousness returns as fate. Now imagine this. What if the month you were born isn't just a time on the calendar, but an entry point into the archetypal structure your soul is here to integrate? In Jungian thought, each person has a dominant archetype, a psychological tone that colors their desires, wounds, fears, and longings. Some people are born under the archetype of the caregiver, always putting others first, often at the cost of their own needs. Others carry the warrior, fighting not just outer battles, but inner wars for self-worth and truth. There are those born under the seeker who never feel at home, always moving, always longing, always searching. And some awaken into life with the mystic, sensing things no one else sees, drawn to silence, solitude, and meaning beyond the material. These aren't just poetic titles. They are inner constellations, patterns of the soul that mirror the great stories written in the stars. Jung believed that astrology, in its truest form, was not a belief system, but a symbolic map of the psyche. He didn't see the zodiac as a fortune-teller's tool, but as an archetypal mirror, a way to understand the subtle forces shaping the individual journey. The month you were born into carries with it an archetypal invitation to become something, to remember something, to heal something. It's not about prediction, it's about permission. Permission to be fully yourself, without shame. Permission to stop resisting your patterns and start listening to them. Permission to stop fearing your timing and start trusting it. Your month of birth is a doorway, and the archetype you carry isn't your limitation. It's your path to wholeness. But before you walk through the doorway of your archetype, you must step away from the noise, from the labels they gave you, from the roles you perform, from the persona that you wear so well, and yet feel so tired. To truly hear the message of your soul, you must retreat. not to escape, but to remember. This is what Jung called the withdrawal of projection, the sacred act of pulling back your attention from the external world to see clearly what's been hidden inside. Most people never do this. They stay trapped in reflection, trying to fix their outer life, while ignoring the deeper truth echoing within. But symbols don't scream, they whisper. And the month of your birth has been whispering to you all along, not with facts, but with feelings. When you were a child, did you feel deeply attuned to certain energies, to silence, to nature, to suffering, to beauty, to solitude? Those weren't random quirks. They were clues. Every archetype speaks through longing and through pain. The healer often grows up in illness. The lover often walks through abandonment. The leader often tastes powerlessness early on. Why? Because the soul does not grow through perfection. It grows through contrast, through absence, through the aching realization that what we are missing is what we came to embody. But this realization doesn't happen in public. It happens in silence. It happens when we stop asking the world who we are and dare to ask the deeper question, what part of God was I sent to reflect? Your month of birth is not your identity. It's your invitation, and to hear it, you must retreat. You must listen not just with your ears, but with your soul. And in that sacred pause, the persona fades and the self begins to speak. There's a passage in Psalm 139 that echoes this truth with divine precision. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Before you breathed, you were known. Before you cried, you were encoded. Not with a blueprint of control, but with a map of meaning. This is the mystery Carl Jung touched when he explored the connection between astrology and individuation. He didn't believe your chart determines your fate. He believed it symbolizes your starting point, your soul's coordinates in time, space, and myth. In biblical language, it's the idea that God doesn't just create your body. He weaves your essence with intention, with a spiritual geography only you can walk. Each month holds a divine signature, not in superstition, but in symbolism. Born in January, perhaps your soul carries the Saturnian call to structure, solitude, and responsibility. Born in April, you may hold the fire of new beginnings, the archetypal energy of the pioneer. Born in July, your path may involve nurturing, protection, and emotional depth, like the shell of the crab that hides a soft center. Born in November, you may carry the scorpionic edge, the invitation to die and be reborn, to face shadows, to transform what others fear. This isn't fortune-telling, it's soul-reading. It's understanding that time itself is spiritual, that incarnation is not accidental, it's aligned, and that your month of birth, your celestial fingerprint, holds insights into why you feel the way you do, why you fear what you fear, why you love as deeply and hurt as silently as you do. The Bible reminds us that there is a time for everything under heaven, a time to be born, a time to awaken, a time to remember what your soul signed up for. You are not here by mistake. You are here by divine design. And the stars didn't force your fate. They framed your story. When you stop seeing your birth as a biological event and begin to see it as a symbolic placement, everything shifts. You stop asking, why am I like this? And start asking, what does this reveal about my purpose? You stop resisting your sensitivities, your intensity, your longings, and begin to recognize them as messages from the self. Because what is the self, if not the divine imprint hidden within the human? Jung wrote that individuation is not the acquisition of a new personality. It is the recovery of your original soul, the one that never needed a mask. And your birth month, your sky map, is one of the many mirrors that help you see what has always been true. You were never meant to be everything. You were meant to be exactly what you were born to reflect. In a world that worships performance, appearance, achievement, It is a radical act to honor your archetype, to live from the inside out, to trust the rhythm of your soul more than the noise of your culture. But that's what alignment is. Not a feeling of constant ease, but a sense of rightness, of deep, sacred coherence. Like remembering a song you didn't know you knew and realizing it's been humming in your bones all along. Your month of birth is the opening note. It's not the whole melody, but it sets the tone. And once you start listening, once you begin honoring your nature instead of fighting it, the patterns of your life begin to harmonize. You stop attracting chaos. You start attracting clarity. You stop repeating the same lessons. You start embodying the wisdom you came to share. That's when life stops being a loop and starts becoming a symphony. This message is not about astrology. It's about remembrance. It's about letting your soul speak through the language of time, silence, and symbols. The month you were born is not just a date. It is a doorway, a sacred echo of where your energy first entered this world. And that echo still carries your truth. In a world that teaches you to look outward for identity, for validation, for answers, your soul is inviting you to turn inward, to the hidden code, to the forgotten pattern, to the divine rhythm that has always pulsed beneath your distractions. Carl Jung didn't want us to become something we're not. He wanted us to remember who we were before we had to become someone else. And the Bible echoes the same longing, that before you were formed in the womb, you were known, not as an idea, but as a living spark of purpose. So today, ask yourself, what energy came with me into this world? What pattern has followed me all my life? What part of me is still waiting to be honored? Because when you listen to that, when you tune into that ancient voice inside, you don't just heal, you return, not to a place, but to your essence, not to a person, but to your presence. The stars didn't create you, but they did greet you. And somewhere in the sky, on the day you arrived, a mirror opened, not to show you your fate, but to remind you of your freedom. If this message stirred something inside you, write in the comments, "My soul remembers the day I was born." Because you were not just born into a world. You were born into a calling, and it's time to remember it.